Back in mid-October, Manchester United stunned the champions with a victory at Anfield. It prompted a bit of a frosty post-match interview with Arne Slot, in which he appears to complain about Ruben Amorim's tactics. Simon and Martin O'Neill were on hand to share their passionate view. The very fact that Manchester United went to Anfield and won yesterday, the very fact we haven't even mentioned it yet and we're an hour in, tells you a lot about what is going on at the moment in the game. So much to get into here. And I must admit, when Liverpool got level with a few minutes to go, I thought Liverpool are going to win this. They'll win it. But no, it was Harry Maguire, no less, and Manchester United who had the last laugh. And Manchester United condemned Liverpool to a fourth consecutive defeat. My goodness me, has Liverpool's air of control and invincibility gone? Does what started as a perfect title defence now look somewhat brittle? So what happened? Arne Slot post-match, this is how he saw it.
I think if you play United with so many quality players they have, brought in a few new ones this summer, and if they come to us in a low block, playing so many long balls, then the last thing you would want is going 1-0 down, because that gives them even more belief. And if you would have told me that we were 1-0 down against a United team that played in the style they did, and you would have told me that we would have created 8, 9, 10 open chances, then I would have said to you that I don't think that is possible. But it was possible. So the second thing that went wrong is that from all the chances we got, we only scored 1 goal. And I've said in Holland many times, and maybe I've said it here as well, it's almost impossible to win a big game of football. And Liverpool is a big game with so many quality players on the pitch, to win it with a negative set-piece balance.
We'll get to United. Martin listening to Slot very intently there. Amorim, meantime, and Manchester United. Amorim's the first United manager to win at Anfield since 2016, succeeding where Mourinho, Solskjaer, Ranić and Ten Hag had all failed. But on Liverpool, Martin, Isak, Wirtz, Van Dijk, Kerkez, Salah, are there too many variables not quite clicking?
Yeah, all those players you mentioned are below par at the moment. Wirtz has still to come to terms with the Premier League. A very fine player when he was in Germany, but really has found it very difficult. Some people do. There's still time for him to produce the ability that he's capable of. But overall, too many players for just at this moment, and it's continued for 4 consecutive losses. Too many players at this minute for Liverpool have not reached the heights of last season. McAllister being another one. But so it's a blip. That's all it is, really. They've lost the games. They could easily have maybe they could have scored a few goals yesterday in the game. What I'm a bit disappointed with is that, well, more than a bit, is that some of the comments that Slot, who has proved himself an excellent manager, coming out and saying that very difficult to play against a low block and teams that play long balls. Kind of reminds me at times of Arsene Wenger way back when I was against him. Every time that a team got a result against Arsenal, it was always because they played very defensively and they played the very, very, very long ball. So what you do is this year, that's your job. Your job as a manager is to break it down. It's to whatever it is. Sorry,
simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
and you are responsible for your own team. That's the point.
Yeah.
You whatever tactics that the other team may employ, it's you. You have to beat them.
But was it not a fair analysis? Low blocks and long balls. Was Slot not right?
No, it's not.
Is that not what they faced?
No, it's what they faced. You still have to beat them. You have to beat them. It doesn't matter. You are not. Sorry, should that mean that you should have gone into Amorim's dressing room beforehand and said, "Oh, excuse me, please don't play the low block or the long ball here because we want to try and win this game." It's just, sorry, don't do this.
What you're reading into what Slot said there at the end.
Well, he said a similar thing about Burnley. When Burnley played and played in a certain way. Of course, Burnley would want to try and get a result against Liverpool. Liverpool were a better side, established Premier League side, Premier League champions. I'm sure that Burnley don't want to open the game up so Liverpool can bash them so Slot can be happy. Difficulty is you can't make that argument against Palace because Palace hammered them. tried to make a different argument. He tried to make an argument in that game that Liverpool, actually in that game, Liverpool could have been 5-0 down and were lucky not to be 5-0 down in that particular game. Yeah. He's in a difficult moment. It's the first difficult moment he's had. I made the argument last week. It's not much of an argument, but I've made the point that he didn't have to do much last year besides turn up and make sure he kept the status quo and the dressing room happy. And didn't make too many changes. People take the edge off. He took the edge off the way that Klopp played. There was less rock and roll. It was more subdued, and they won the Premier League. I would say they won the Premier League because other sides weren't as good as they had been previously. But Liverpool deserved to win the Premier League. Now we've got a side that's been, to some part, slightly reassembled because players have gone, key players have gone, tragedies have hit the football club, and they've brought in a new set of players. I know this is mean-spirited, and I'm quite glad to see Isak not hitting the ground running. I like to have a little bit of duress because of his conduct at Newcastle, but Slot will answer the questions.
Yeah.
But like most football managers, when it comes on top, you see them find a different, rather than the cool, collected, balanced, objective, it'll be okay sort of attitude. Now you start to see in the narratives coming in because you're under a bit of pressure.
Yeah,
it's got to be the same. It's got to be the Rudyard Kipling mentality. You treat both imposters the same. You took all the glory when you got a hard moment. Don't start making it about what other teams, because there's a dig at Man United. There's a dig in there about Man United. Who would have imagined that a Man United team would have been prepared to play this way to win a game?
Yeah, but Simon, is there an awkward irony that 400 million quid later, Slot's team now looks worse than the one he inherited from Klopp?
I suppose you could. I mean, obviously you could portray it that way. I mean, we know that 400 million pounds was spent over three transfer windows. It happened to be spent in one, but it was actually spent over three transfer windows in terms of didn't buy anything in the first two and bought load in the third. Sorry.
Yeah,
there was reasons behind it.
Income Slot's players, Ekitike, Isak.
Yep. Of course,
Verts,
but some of these
fortunes,
and that's the price you pay in the market for the best players. Unfortunately, this is the cost implications of it. But also, there were players like Lucas Diaz that probably you wouldn't have wanted to go, but he wanted to go. Obviously, the tragedy with Diego Jota made a decision for him. So circumstances are the one question that needs to be asked and answered is why they didn't buy a centre half. Because if you look at the manner in which they're defending now, you look at Virgil van Dijk yesterday in that game. Yeah. He looked uncomfortable at times.
Yeah. Fair point.
You wouldn't find him in previously.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty of time for those players that you talked about, the players that they've signed at the football club, because they are very good players to kick on. Absolutely. Yeah, they are. And the only thing I will take slight dispute with Simon there is the fact that Liverpool won the league last season because the other teams didn't get up to it. I think if you won the league over 38 games, I think you've deserved to win the league. And I think you step in because...
you categorically deserve to win the league, but the best versions of the other sides weren't on offer, I thought, at times.
That's true. That is true. But Liverpool weren't accountable for that.
No, that's true. Of course, they deserve to win the league.
A very warm welcome back to a very festive edition of White and Jordan, looking back on some of the best bits of the season so far. What a year it's been for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. It looks as if this season might finally be the season he gets his hands on the Premier League trophy, in charge of the Gunners. And his impact at the football club has been compared to none other, of course, than Arsene Wenger's. Here's Simon explaining how he has been a revolutionary. I mean, I'll ask you straight, is there something brewing in North London? Something special brewing in North London?
Well, it's something that's been gestating for a period of time, and we've been waiting for it to arrive in some level of success rather than we're getting better, we're getting closer. So with the squad that he's assembled and with the backing that he's been given, Arsenal are doing what they should be doing, which is winning football matches, being extremely potent in games, and having a bench now that can change up and change down. They've got resources left, right and centre. They've got an embarrassment of riches. They've got players that aren't even featuring, that aren't fit, like Jesus and Havertz and Madueke that's injured, that are going to come back into the squad. This is a good squad. This is a squad built to win something.
There you go.
And it has to win something this season, don't you think, Dan?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the most impressive thing about Arsenal that I'm watching,
they don't concede that.
But their attitude without the ball is phenomenal. There's no egos. They don't carry anyone.
Yeah.
And it starts from the front always. Gyökeres, brilliant without the ball. The wide boys work tremendously hard. Everyone's at it. As soon as they lose the ball as a mindset, bam, back in shape, we're going to get it back.
Yeah.
Honestly, they look powerful. They look relentless at the minute. We know football, it can change quite quickly, so I wouldn't get too carried away. But yeah, your eyes don't lie. What we're seeing at the moment, they've leaped into the position of favourites.
Where's the weakness?
I think
There you go, Dan. There you go.
Yeah, there's not many. I still think Rice is a huge player for them. I think if you took him out, they've not got anybody like him.
Are they creative enough in the middle of the park? Do they have that clever ball in them that can unlock defences that are just concentrating on stopping Arsenal having any space? Who's got that clever ball in them?
Eza.
That's
like
what
you saw for the equaliser against Man City.
Yeah.
Odegaard when he's fit.
But do they need this clever ball when they're so good defensively?
You do need a mixture, yeah. You do.
Yeah.
But they've got it.
So, I mean, it's happy birthday, Arsene Wenger. 76 today. Danny, if Arteta ends a 22-year wait for the Premier League or he delivers the club's first ever Champions League trophy, where will Arteta sit alongside Arsenal's greatest manager? On a par with Wenger, or he might eclipse him?
No, I think Wenger won so much and created such a legacy there. Although Arteta would be lauded, and rightly so, he'd need to do it more than once, I think, to be talked about in the same breath. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter whether he's behind him, in front of him, or level with him. They won't care. Arsenal fans are just craving being at the top.
There is a similar feel to Klopp. What Klopp did at Liverpool,
there is a long,
30-year wait.
I mean, when Wenger came in '96 and won the Premier League in '98, it wasn't 1976 as Arsenal won the league, had it? There wasn't a 22-year gap, was there? In this instance, there'll be such a long gap between Arsenal winning the Premier League that it affords Arteta the opportunity to be considered in the conversation with a revolutionary like Arsene Wenger. Because Arsene Wenger not only changed Arsenal's fortunes from a side that were competing and had won things under George Graham, but were always seemingly in the shadow of Manchester United, into the side that changed the way footballers think about football, the way that footballers are treated, the professionalism of football clubs, the disciplines behind it, and the culture. And that was all a massive sea change from it wasn't just the only way, because you still had a different culture. And Man United had a different culture. You know, Ferguson was still dealing with the English mentality of a few people going out with a few beers and not looking after themselves, and they still dominated English football.
Right.
So whilst Wenger changed the perspective and did it a different way, it wasn't just the only way that was successful. So I think Wenger had a revolution attached to him, but Arteta has done, I think, lots of good things at Arsenal. He's turned what was a stadium that was sort of ambivalent at times and almost empathetic into a fully engaged stadium now, with fans really at it and across it, so much so that Arsenal fans become even more irritated than they were before. And now, I mean, every time I get in a cab is a bloody Arsenal fan crowing about what they're going to do this season.
The other thing is the discipline, Simon, is the things like the Aubameyang situation.
Yes.
At the time,
he was supported in that, wasn't he?
He was supported, but he took
it by the horns.
Yeah. And that they were risks.
Yeah.
I think what he's built is...
He had to do that. And I think Aubameyang was a gift for him, because Aubameyang was so destructive.
There was still some discontent around when it happened.
Inside the dressing room?
No, from the fans, because there was a lot of love for him, and the fact that they didn't really have a ready-made to go. He just said, doesn't matter, we'll crack on without you.
Yeah. Danny, you're Liverpool through and through. When you look at Arsenal, are you worried?
Well, I think from my position in the job I do, you always want to see competitive league, and you don't want. Last year wasn't really. Second half of the season was done, wasn't it?
Wear your Liverpool hat for me.
Well, yeah, you've got to be. I mean, this is a hell of an impressive side that look really determined to get over the line, but you can't really, as a football club or a group of players or supporters, get too involved worrying about everyone else. You know, you watch your own team, you want to get that in order. You want to. Liverpool need to improve, don't they?
Are you more worried about Arsenal than you are about Liverpool? Because Liverpool in the last two games, I mean, Slot has turned around and said things that I find slightly irksome, which is the fact that he doesn't like teams setting up with low blocks, as if people should set up the way he wants them to, so he can get the best outcome. Yeah, and then he rewrote history in the Palace game by saying that Liverpool were competitive in this game. Liverpool could have been 5-0 down.
The comments about the Palace game on a couple of occasions I've heard, he's obviously just got a selective memory.
Yeah.
Which can happen with managers. The thing that's been jumped on regarding him bringing up long balls and low blocks with United, he didn't say he didn't like it or he was angry at it.
He's saying how United have become that team now.
Yeah, but he was saying we should know what's come. We've got to do better than that. You know, he's not. Yeah. He didn't say it as a.
But he used it as a weapon against Burnley, as if Burnley should set up in such a way that would enable Liverpool to win.
Well, I think you can interpret it as him using it as a weapon, or you can interpret it as him as just stating the facts of what's happened.
Let's put it out there then as we hit the first break this morning. Arsenal fans, where are you? When you look at this squad, is there something special brewing in North London? and it's you lot. It's Arsenal. You're onto something, both in the Champions League and the Premier League. When you look at the current squad, is it well nigh flawless? Now we move on to one of the biggest moments of the year, as the mighty Scots qualified for the World Cup in America later next year. Let's take a look back to the morning after the night before. I donned my Scotland jersey with pride, as Simon looked as though he wanted to be literally anywhere else.
Has launched the ball over the head of Kasper Schmeichel. 50,000 inside Hampden go crazy, and Scotland have done it for the first time since 1998. Scotland 4, Denmark 2. Hampden can hardly believe it, but what a night this is for Scotland.
What a night it was, and Scotland are heading to the US of A. As usual with Scotland, they did it the hard way, but they are there. So, looking forward to it immensely. I was there Mexico 86. I was there France 98. The last time Scotland were at World Cup finals. And this shirt will be worn with pride. If you're watching on YouTube, Chromecast, Android, Google, even Prime Video, wherever you want to watch me, I'm sitting here wearing it. And I'm wearing it for Edward Longshanks, a.k.a. Simon Jordan, and my great friend, Danny Murphy. Danny, what did you make of that?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was amazing game of football where you had every emotion, brilliant quality.
Yeah.
And you can't help but feel pleased for them. You know, so many of those lads we watch every week, and well, you want to get behind them. I mean, Denmark will probably go through in the playoffs anyway because they're a decent side. And Scotland were up against it. Denmark played well for the majority of it.
Yeah.
But the drama, the goals, everything about it, and the fans' elation. And then this morning you see all the videos of the pubs and the people in their houses. And all. It's great to see.
Yeah.
I was pleased for you, Jim, as well, of course.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you very much indeed. I'm delighted. Martin Keown, thank you for the text you were sending me last night as well. Thrilled for Scotland. Now, this is a bit we're going to enjoy, is it not? And before I speak to the man on my left, who I'm on talkSPORT with every morning, I messaged him last night. I thought, what do you make of that? And I got a thumbs up emoji. That was it. That was it. He couldn't bring himself to write me a word. Simon, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, good morning. They did it the hard way, but they've done it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I mean, I'm very pleased with Steve Clarke. You know, sometimes he has to let his face know that he's enjoyed something. But notwithstanding that, that it's a great result. It's a great result for Scotland. And for me, it's really great because obviously we go to a tournament. Last time we went to a tournament was in Germany.
Yes.
We go to America. We're going to be out there for a month. And I get this wonderful opportunity to relive that June 23rd moments against Hungary in the 90th minute and 10 minutes to go, where the last vestige of hope for Scotland to stay in a tournament was extinguished.
Well, that's
and the
right.
desperation and the little balloon that was you came crashing back down.
It did indeed. And you very kindly filmed me as I went through every emotion. I went through every emotion last night, as every Scot listening this morning no doubt did as well. Danny's absolutely right. Highs and lows in every way. I was lying in my bed at 3-2. I thought, that's it. Tierney's done it. He's done it. And then I fell out of my bed when Kenny McLean did what he did. I was almost suffering from incontinence. It was an incredible moment.
Again.
For everybody in the old folks' home. No, it was an incredible moment.
Falling out that top bunk in the dorm you live in would have been
absolutely
wouldn't it?
A moment I will never ever forget. And well done to Steve Clarke. I like that as well, Simon, mentioning Steve Clarke. He never really gets animated in any way. And Steve, this
was
morning,
emotional though, wasn't he? In the press conference afterwards, he was emotional. And the commentary leading up to the fourth goal was fabulous as well. They get iconic moments in commentary, don't you?
Yeah,
I think also as well, listening to the players after I watched a few of the interviews, they all alluded to his chat to them before, which doesn't always happen. You know, managers try and be inspirational, but they all seem to have remembered it, which was obviously a good one.
Sure.
I actually got to interview him once. I was part of a panel at Fulham years ago when they interviewed some managers, and God knows why I was on the panel, but anyway, I was.
Of course you were.
And he's actually got a lot about him. He's quite a funny guy. He just facially externally doesn't look like he's particularly warm and full of character,
he's got a great sense of humour.
He has,
and a very dry sense of humour. And of course, he knows the game inside out, Dan. We shouldn't forget. And you'll remember, Simon, he began his career, I think it was with St Mirren, and then ended up playing 300 plus games for Chelsea down here. So he knows his way around. Of that, there is no doubt. And of course, post-match, well, knowing that he knew we were there, he was thrilled.
Yeah, tonight it feels pretty special. Do you want me to go through the boring one and say, this? No, this is the best feeling. This is the best feeling. I've waited a long time. I've spoken to you before about how much I want to go to a World Cup with my country. I had the chance as a player. It passed me by for various reasons. We had the chance against Ukraine. It passed us by, and suddenly you start to think, might be the last one, might be the last chance. But it's not. We're there. So yeah, fantastic moment. I feel great. I'm going to enjoy myself tonight and tomorrow night and the night after that. It's actually great because I've now got 3 months where I can just enjoy myself. The lads have got to have a few beers tonight and then head back to their clubs, but I've got a little bit of time, so it's going to be good, and it's going to be a good Christmas in the Clark household, I promise you.
Isn't that good, Simon? He dealt with it beautifully, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, he's achieved something. I think he catches some shrapnel times that I don't think is fair. I thought post the Euros in 21, there was a build-up campaign about Steve Clarke wasn't doing well enough in the opening games post the Euros, and then he pulled himself together. I think he's done well as a Scotland manager. I mean, obviously, we want you to turn up in this tournament and not get yourselves out of it in the first game.
Yeah.
But the spirit of the team, the players that are now playing around Europe, McTominay, who would have thought that McTominay would operate at this level, and he does operate at this level.
How about that for a goal,
repeatedly.
Danny?
So well done. Absolutely well done. Chapeau.
Brilliant. I mean, the goals, Danny, what was the pick of them?
Well, the McTominay one's the hardest, technically, because it takes such wonderful athleticism and timing.
Yeah.
And to even try it, really, was a ridiculous goal.
Yeah.
That was the best one. But Tierney's, at 2-2 when you think they've thrown it away and messed it up, to compose himself after just coming on the pitch to be able to, score that goal from where he was, really technically good finish, really clever. He didn't slash at it, he just timed it beautifully. But it doesn't really matter which. The last goal was an icing on the cake because Schmeichel was halfway up the pitch, and I would never have tried that, by the way. No. He should have been keeping the ball there.
Yeah.
Because that could have hit the post or anything and back into Schmeichel's hands, and then they're under the cushion.
Yeah. These days, defender Scott McKenna plays his football, once of Nottingham Forest, plays his football for Dinamo Zagreb. Spoke to him just before he boarded a flight. You'll hear that in about 10 minutes from now. But for Andy Robertson, what a moment for him. And he spoke post-match, was extremely emotional. And Steve Clarke had rewarded Andy Robertson for his loyalty. 90 caps. I mean, he's a standout performer for Scotland. This was Andy.
Today I've been in bits. I know that the age I'm at and everything, this could be my last chance at World Cup. I couldn't get my mate Diogo Jota out of my head today. We spoke so much together about the World Cup. When he missed out in Qatar because of injury, I missed out. But Scotland never went, and we always discussed what it'd be like going to this World Cup. And I know he'll be somewhere smiling over me today. And I just couldn't get him out of my head the whole day. So I was in a bit of trouble in my room earlier. But
watching you, what a cup signing is that?
I know, but like I said, I think I hit it well off the boys, and I'm just so glad it's ended up this way.
Andy Robertson reflecting on the conversations he'd had previously with Diogo Jota at Liverpool about Portugal getting to the World Cup finals and Scotland getting to the World Cup finals. We forget, Danny, that you guys, different nationalities, you talk about everything in a dressing room and a training ground environment, and Andy gave us an example of that with Diogo.
Well, they were together for years, weren't they? And they got on brilliantly. I know they were close mates. So it was a nice touch for him to share that actually that's what happened in the day. I know it's when you've won and it all comes out, the emotion, but he could have kept that to himself. I think it was a nice thing to express and share with everyone.
Yeah.
Robertson's been amazing, really. He's back in the team now for Liverpool for a reason, because they know how reliable he is and, what a leader he is.
It's White and Jordan's Christmas special right here on talkSPORT. Before you open your next present, let's unwrap another iconic discussion from the show this season.
No doubt where we're going to start this morning, and it's not the award of Martin Ødegaard as the man of the match on Saturday's game between Aston Villa and Arsenal. We're talking about Liverpool, Arne Slot and Mo Salah. Liverpool dropped points again in the 3-3 draw with Leeds. They dropped points from winning positions again. They've only won 1 point from a losing position all season. What does that say about their mentality? They conceded 23 goals, their worst at this stage of the season since 1964-65. And post-match, Mo Salah accused Liverpool of throwing him under a bus and said that his relationship with Arne Slot, the manager of the football club, was non-existent.
I'm sitting on the bench for 90 minutes. I think that's the third time I'm in the bench. I think it's my first time in my career, but I'm very disappointed. I'm very, very disappointed, to be fair. I have done so much for this club. Everybody can see that during the years, and especially last season. Sitting on the bench, I don't know why. Seems like the club is throwing me under the bus. That's how I feel it. I think it's very clear that someone wants me to get all the blame. The club promised me in the summer for a lot of promises and nothing. So far, I'm in the bench 3 games, so I can't say that they keep the promise. And I said that many times before. I had a good relationship with the manager, and out of the sudden, we don't have any relationship. I don't know why. It seems to me, how I see it, it's someone doesn't want to be in the club. It's not acceptable for me, to be fair. I don't know why that's happening always to me. I don't get it. I think if I'm somewhere else, every club will protect his player. I don't know why I'm in that situation now. But again, it's how I see it now is it's like you throw Mo under the bus because he's a problem in the team now. But I don't think I'm the problem. I have done so much for this club to get the respect I want to get. And I don't have to go every day fighting for my position because I earn it. People will say, you're not bigger than... I'm not bigger than anyone. I earn my position. This is football. Yeah. In football, you never know, but I don't accept the situation, to be fair. Again, I've done so much for this club.
That was Mo Salah in the mix zone afterwards. We don't often hear from Mo Salah, but he certainly had something to say on Saturday. Simon Jordan and Martin Keown are here. Is Salah right? Is he being scapegoated more than most for Liverpool's struggles? Or is this an entitled player thinking he's bigger than the club? Simon?
I think it's a negotiation. I think it's a very simple situation that something's gone on behind the scenes. Both myself and Martin have been involved in football clubs. Martin as a player, me as an owner, have seen things behind the scenes. There's something that's gone on behind the scenes that no one's been privy to. And he's negotiating with the club now. The best thing Liverpool can do is get rid while there's still some money attached to him. Because ultimately, it's similar to the Ronaldo situation where we engineered an outcome, but the Ronaldo tribute act that passed as a player that turned up at Man United is not the same as Salah. There's still some economic value in Salah. So if I'm Liverpool, I'm looking at it going, okay, we are where we are. Let's sell him. And let's get some money for him. If the Saudis want him, let's get some money for him now. Whatever's gone on isn't likely to be healed. Whatever you think of the ideas of what Salah has said, and we all know that a lot of it's nonsense and confected, it is the modern-day footballer. It is not what other journalists have said. I was listening to certain journalists on a Sunday supplement like Jonathan Liu saying it shows how weak Liverpool are. It doesn't show how weak Liverpool are at all. When Mbappe had a turn at PSG, did it show how weak Nasser Khelafi was? When Ronaldo had his turn, when big players and big reputations decide that this is not for them, this is what the modern-day footballer does. You might not like it. You might not appreciate it. You can drive buses through most of the things he's said there. You look at the idea when he brings Harry Kane into the conversation. Harry Kane got slaughtered when he wasn't playing well. Slaughtered. Got people demanding he got taken out of the England team last year. So it's nonsense when he says, well, it's Harry Kane. I don't know what point he's trying to make there, whether there's an ethnicity argument he thinks is advancing or a bias towards him. I don't know what his point is. But he's been a wonderful player for Liverpool. And I think it's now run its course. And for whatever reason, Liverpool gave him a 2-year contract last year because the backdrop was you had to. And now you've got a player that doesn't want to be there, so get rid.
Yeah. It should never be just about you when you're playing in a team game. And I think sometimes with the strikers, you can overindulge players and then they can let you down. Because I think all of the club, all the fans will be disappointed with this. Look, this guy, he scored 250 goals, 450 appearances. He's been there 8 years. By and large, he's been a really good plus for the football club. And he's got along with other managers. Maybe this manager, there's a breakdown of communication.
Has he always got along with other managers?
Well, I think there's been a little bit of a tit-a-tat with Klopp. There was a little bit once when Klopp took him out but then he put him back. he gave him an opportunity. On this occasion, I think he feels. I mean, maybe the journey of the game...
Is this just not a player, though, sensing that there's a little bit of weakness in the management here and that he's lost a few matches and he feels like he might be in a weak position and he's trying to push the boat out a little bit?
No, I think it's an emotional outcry from the player. He's not sitting there thinking we're 2 up, right, okay, this looks like it's my fault because they're winning, because they suddenly lose, and does he think, oh, the manager now is in a weak position? I don't think he's thinking that through. I think he's just done... I mean, look, there was a media frenzy around him. They were loving it, weren't they? The information he was giving them. But he was wrong in so many ways in what he's done. And I think he'll be disappointed when he looks back on it. He may well feel now that he wants to go take the riches of Saudi Arabia. He was promised. You know, he's sitting on the bench expecting to come on to win that game at 3-2, and he doesn't come on, and he's hurt, he's wounded, and he should have walked away. And now he's going to have to repair the damage. The club should insist on an apology. And the manager now... Really, I mean, if he's really in charge, he's got to be given that licence to manage this football club and discipline the player.
That's the big question, isn't it? What happens next? Is the manager now in a position where he has to be strong and take action against a senior player, or does he have to row back and caress the ego of that player?
To what end?
The end is either you sell him or you re-ingratiate him.
But it's simple. You sell him. It's simple. You know, you're going to turn the wheel. He's going to go at any point in the near future, whether it's in January or the summer. He's gone. Right. So what you're doing is you're treading water with this player. You can dissect the idea that he's talking about himself. You can debate whether it was an emotive response that wasn't rehearsed, because he didn't. It's off the top of his head to have rehearsed to say this is just an emotional response on the basis of that he's going, without thinking about what he's saying. He thought about what he was saying.
You thought that was pre-planned?
Well, I think he had a view that he was going to say these sort of things, because ultimately he's taken everybody with him. He's left nobody a prisoner. You know, everybody's there. So he's left nobody free of any sort of observation. So I think it's very simple. Because it's Mo Salah, the noise will be that, Liverpool can't afford him. They're going to regenerate without him anyway at some point. So you've now got a player doing what players do, which is, in any other walk of life, if you've got a contract and you fall out with your bosses, you go and negotiate, right? In football, you negotiate in the public domain because you create divisions that make sure that situations manifest themselves as outcomes.
But he's doing something that players rarely do. And do you think he's playing a political game here, where he sees that Slot maybe is on rocky ground, and he's like, okay, you make a call.
It's not my read of it.
You make a call because I'm going to make it untenable between me and the manager. I'm going to make it...
It's not my read of it. It's not my read of it. Because there's an economic value still left in Mo Salah, and Liverpool know that this player is just on the cusp of potentially being less worth something, and he is not going to be the player that will demand and command the sort of returns. What would you rather have? Would you rather have Trent Alexander-Arnold running around telling everyone how much he loves the football club and engineering a free transfer, or somebody coming out going, not happy here,
Saudi
don't like
Arabia,
this
time last year, were about to pay 150 million for him.
And they probably still will be.
Well, will they?
Maybe not that much money, but they
might pay 75 million quid for him.
33 years of age. It's a depreciating commodity.
Yeah, no, but he has a great value in that area of the world. It'd be a brilliant statement for them to take Mo Salah to the Saudi Pro League.
Yeah, but it's posturing, isn't it, in the dressing room for a slot for the manager who's on, who you could say is on rocky ground.
So what does he do next? Does he take him to Inter Milan?
Well, look, there's going to have to be a level of communication. There's going to have to be some sort of apology.
Do you think he's played his last game for the club?
Well, it looks, for me, I think it looks increasingly like that, because how do you repair the damage? He's going to be out of the country till the middle of January. We get to the transfer window. Probably there's going to be more slating matches. When you go to play for your international team, they're asking you all the time about your club. Unless he's going to apologise, I don't see there's a way back for him.
What would you do next?
Sell him.
Just outright.
Yeah.
Highest bidder, off you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's...
Would you play him again in between time?
Depends if I felt that the team was better off with him in it. At the end of the day, you've got to try and win football matches. And are Liverpool better with Salah in the team or worse? At this moment in time, the argument is debatable, because they're not winning with him and they're not winning without him.
Well, glad tidings to you one and all. It's Jim White right here with a very festive edition of White and Jordan. We have had so many memorable moments already this season, so help yourself to another one. The two of us is about to become the three of us, and an extremely significant gentleman has joined us in studio this morning. Let me explain a bit more at this stage. Over the last couple of months, the issue of whether or not it will be Lyon or Crystal Palace competing in the Europa League next season has been in question, stemming from John Textor's involvement in both clubs, conflicting with UEFA's multi-club ownership rules. In a bid to satisfy the situation, Textor has since sold his Palace shares to the New York Jets owner, the very wealthy Woody Johnson, while he stepped down as president of Lyon. But both these moves came after UEFA's March 1 deadline regarding multi-club rules. Last week, UEFA confirmed they were postponing their decision on whether or not Palace can play in the Europa League next season until the outcome of Lyon's appeal over their domestic relegation is reached. If Lyon won their appeal and were restored to Ligue 1, Palace, could face demotion from the Europa League to the Europa Conference League. Now, that was the news Palace fans were dreading. The news came through yesterday that Lyon's appeal was successful and their relegation was rescinded. As a result, Palace faced demotion to the Conference League, with Nottingham Forest now expected to replace them in the Europa League for the upcoming season. The man at the centre of it all, the co-owner, up until recently, the co-owner of Crystal Palace, but the owner of Eagle Football Holdings, John Textor, has come hot foot from France just for us this morning and joined Simon and myself live in studio. John, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I saw you the other night when Botafogo won a match over in the US, and you were beyond yourself with excitement.
wasn't it? Yeah.
It was against PSG. I do know that you and Simon have been texting each other, and that Mr. Jordan to my left here, who plays such an integral part in the show every day, that he's the man who said, John, come in and speak, because the Palace fans will be listening in numbers. Your group, John, Eagle Football Holdings, acquires a controlling stake in Lyon back in 2022. So 3 years later, how does the club find itself in a position where it's relegated for financial issues?
Well, let me take that on. I object to that characterization. I think people have to understand the DNCG. Like, you've never seen a situation where a club goes into a hearing and it's got significant cash on hand, significant cash flow coming in. It's actually even projecting that it's got another couple $100 million coming in from the sale of Palace. How does a club like that get relegated for sustainability purposes? And in the same week, we passed through the sustainability review of UEFA, which is quite comprehensive, extremely professional. And the answer is the process of the DNCG is very subjective. It's not black and white. They will literally take your player revenues, transfer revenues, and say, well, that needs to count for zero. Well, we do $100 million a year in player sales. Well, under their model of sustainability, they have to project forward as if you have no player sales. We had a $70 million contract from a forward sale of an intangible asset. They didn't really like that deal. They said $70 million, toss it out. $100 million of player sales, toss it out.
But there was a suggestion
$10 million a month from our multi-club cash flows that comes from Botafogo and other places. 130 into OL over the last 12 months, and toss it out.
Now, you mentioned Botafogo in Brazil. There was a suggestion you were going to take funds from Botafogo and stick them into Lyon to satisfy the French authorities.
Well, it goes both ways. So we had a shareholder. Cash pooling between our clubs is very unique. So yes, that's true. Over the last 12 months, 125 million has flowed from other clubs at Eagle Football into OL. 65 million has gone back, and so we share cash and we deal with counter seasonality to our benefit. When you go to the DNCG, they say take that 10 million a month, call it zero. Take your player sales, call it zero. Take this $70 million forward sale, call it zero. If you take 300 million out of our cash flows and say, well, are you sustainable? Well, obviously in that academic scenario, no. So I think the point of the DNCG is we don't have anything like this in the Premier League. We have black and white rules. If you lose 105 million pounds over 3 years, you're docked points. If you go into administration, you're docked points. It does not work that way in France. It's very subjective, and they decide what they like, don't like, and you've got to please them. Those are the rules, and I've been fighting with the DNCG and trying to reform them, and so maybe I'm not the best guy to present to them, which is why Michel is much better in leadership in that position than I am.
So do you think, John, you were unfairly targeted at Lyon?
Not targeted. I guess I'm really getting to the point, is that their model says, run your club as a standalone and show us you have this wheelbarrow full of cash at the beginning of the season, because we're going to say they literally said the rule is you cannot project player sales as part of your business. Now, that works well for a simple club that has player trading, because often that's a wash, right?
Mm-hmm.
You make money, you lose money. But what if you're the third most successful academy in Europe behind Real Madrid and Barcelona, and you do 100 million euros a year, and that's a recurring business segment, and they're going to judge your sustainability and say, well, count your revenues as zero.
But it's not unreasonable, though, John, and to some extent, is it? Because forward projecting for things that you don't know you can guarantee are going to happen, we can all project for things. We can project for cup runs, we can project for winning tournaments, we can project for player transfers. But if these things don't realise themselves because someone doesn't want to buy your players or you don't achieve something in a competition, then there is an element of accountancy that says, well, you can't project for that because it's not a guaranteed revenue stream. So there is some degree of...
there's no basis for that in accounting. It's against accounting principles.
Really?
On the football side, we're not talking about player trading. You can't count on that.
Yeah,
buying and selling.
But you said it's 100 million of your...
Yeah, but you have a separate business segment, which is like you're producing ice cream.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a going concern calculation, you look forward in 12 months and you project your revenues,
sure,
because they've been the same every year for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So that side of Lyon's business, the academy, produces 100 million a year every year. Look at the financials. So you can't say that entire segment has to be zero revenue.
Be discounted, yeah. Because what we were hearing, and some of the things we were hearing, we had various journalists from France that I thought were a little bit hysterical at the time. I said they were hysterical, they didn't like it. But they were talking about things like the debt level, that when the club was bought, it had very little debt. And now that you've got it, it's got loads of debt. And by the way, you've sold off all the assets, like the basketball club and stuff like that. And by the way, also, you can't meet your obligations to Burnley. You can't even pay transfer fees to Burnley, and UEFA have sanctioned you for it. Those sort of things were reverberating around.
Well, Botafogo is very different than OL. In terms of OL, the debt has hardly gone up since we bought it. We have a stadium. We had to refinance probably 400 million of debt.
Yeah.
Stadium's worth 800. There's debt of about 400 million euros.
I've understood that, yeah.
Yeah. We refinanced that, lowered the interest rate. We have a triple B plus rating.
Yeah.
That was reaffirmed. So when they're talking about sustainability, but the credit rating agencies are saying you're investment grade. I mean, that's, first of all, something to pay attention to.
So what's the issue you, John?
When they say has debt gone up? No, the shareholder debt has gone up because I loaned about 40, 50 million in. That level's now about 20.
Yeah.
But no, debt hasn't gone up.
Was the issue you? Because the optics have changed.
I think
you've stepped out of this situation. The same things have been presented back to them.
I think I'm very much the issue. Like, I'm attempting to be an agent of change. I think the governance in France is not working. We're trying to bring a Premier League model in where every club has a vote. It hasn't been done that way previously. The league is constantly being accused of corruption. There was just a claim against the president. The French Football Federation is trying to take over, which is a huge mistake. And I show up and we have a bunch of panels and I say, I'm literally challenging the existence of the DNCG and whether or not they should exist.
Of the orthodoxy.
So if I'm talking about a new model, a reformist model where there is no DNCG, but there are black and white rules like we have in the Premier League, I'm probably not the best guy to go in front of that same DNCG and ask their support. So, yeah, the problem's me.
Right.
I was a disruptor, a reformist. Yeah, the cowboy hat was funny, but not to them. Nasser liked it, thought it was funny. He and I are getting along very well, but no, I don't work very well in the governing model of France, and that's the big reason for
Nasser
the change.
Al-Khelaifi, of course, flying at the moment with PSG in the final on Sunday.
He's only lost one game in this whole 10-game stretch. And,
amazing.
We know
that was coming, right?
I want to put this to you because we want to get to the Crystal Palace aspect of this as and when we can, because Palace fans, and I'm judging by the messages I'm seeing coming in, are listening to your every word. Can you categorically, John, say that Eagle Football Holdings, your company, is in a positive place financially? Supposed confidential detail from the sale of your Palace shares have found their way into the Telegraph, the sport section of the Telegraph this morning. Any idea how that happened?
I have no idea what the article is, but happy if you tell me what it is.
The report suggests that Eagle Football Holdings has $1.2 billion plus debts, according to confidential documents. What do you say to that?
I mean, they're not really...
And how's it found out? Who's leaked it?
Oh, I have no idea, but we put our numbers out. We just filed with the SEC for a public offering. That was a confidential filing, but everybody has our numbers.
What is the number, John, of the debt?
The number of debt, well, you've got to add it up across the clubs. We have an $800 million stadium in France, so we have $430 million of debt just on that alone. We have operating debt down at Botafogo. We have debt on our books that is non-recourse to us. It's actually the social club debt, where we pay 6% of our revenues off to them. From a recording standpoint, that debt shows on our books, but it's non-recourse to us. So they're just, I'm sure that number's probably correct, but what of it? We've got clubs that are immensely valuable. We have assets and stadiums that are immensely valuable. And, we have significant operating cash flow down in Brazil. We've gone from 20 million in revenues to 200 million in revenues in 3 years. We'll do 115 million of operating cash flow in Brazil. We've gone from bankrupt and 3 players and no staff 3 years ago to champions of Brazil, champions of South America. And yes, we had a good win in the Club World Cup. So
how would you describe Eagle Football Holdings' financial condition this morning?
If we weren't proud of our financial condition, and if we weren't sound, UBS wouldn't have decided to be our lead underwriter in the IPO. So we wouldn't have a BBB+ credit rating in our club in France. Like, you just throw around numbers as if they're big numbers where you don't really think about the assets. Our debt, that debt number probably also counts player debt, and our squad value has gone up massively and far exceeds our player debt. So,
right.
Yeah, these are numbers. They sound big, but the clubs are big.
Of course. John, we'll carry on after a short break. And for Palace fans, we're going to get into it now. The likelihood or otherwise of Palace playing in the Europa Conference League, but they really should be playing in the Europa League.